But the forest we camped in didn't grow. It moved. And it moved only at night. Only when we were asleep. And only until it stood close enough to touch us. This is the story of how two of my best friends disappeared. In a forest that rearranges itself like a living maze. My name is Hassan, and this happened 2 summers ago. Back when I used to believe camping was the perfect escape from stress. My 2 friends, Adil and Murtaza, were the type of guys who never said no to an adventure. We'd been planning a camping trip for weeks, and Adil, being the research guy, found a forest in northern Idaho that hardly anyone visited. That should have been the first red flag. The locals called it Redwater Hollow, named after the reddish tint the river gets when the sun sets behind the cliffs. But there was something else about it, something people didn't talk about unless you really pressed them. They said the forest moves. Paths don't stay the same. Landmarks appear and disappear. And at night, things shift. We laughed it off. People make up stories about every forest. We thought it was just local superstition. We packed our bags, grabbed some food, and drove 6 hours north. If only we had turned around before sunset. My friends might still be alive. We arrived at the campsite around 6 p.m. The forest was thick, the trees unusually tall and narrow, growing straight up like prison bars. The air felt unnaturally still, almost heavy. But we ignored all that. We set up our tent, lit a campfire, cooked some hot dogs, and joked about who would get eaten by a bear first. Around midnight, we finally went to sleep. I wish I had stayed awake. The morning after. When I woke up, something felt off. Really off. The sunlight was hitting the tent at a strange angle. The ground underneath felt uneven. I stepped outside. And froze. The tent wasn't where we had set it up. It had shifted at least 10 feet to the right. Dragged across the ground like someone pulled it while we slept. Adil walked out behind me, rubbing his eyes. Bro, didn't we set this up near the big rock? We looked around. The rock was on the opposite side now. Murtaza came out last, confused and irritated. Wind, he said. It must have been the wind. But there was no drag marks, no torn spikes, nothing to suggest a tent had moved. Just silence. A deep, unnatural silence. We brushed it off, but a sick feeling grew in my stomach. We spent the day hiking and tried to stick close to each other. But something about the forest felt wrong. The trees were too close together. Too symmetrical. And sometimes, I caught myself feeling watched. Not by an animal. By the forest itself. Nightfall. We went to sleep early. I remember the night being so quiet that even our breathing sounded too loud. Sometime after midnight, I woke up to a weird sound. A creaking. A shifting. Like the slow bending of wood. I thought it was a dream. I forced myself to sleep again. Morning, the backpack incident. When we stepped out of the tent the next morning, Adil gasped so loudly it made my heart jump. Murtaza's backpack was missing. We looked around and finally saw it. Hanging from a tree branch. At least 20 feet off the ground. A perfect, horizontal branch. With the backpack carefully placed on top. Like someone, or something, had set it there intentionally. There were no climb marks on the tree. No scratches. No broken bark. No footprints in the dirt. Just that backpack high above us. Swaying gently in the cold morning wind. Murtaza went pale. Adil didn't speak for a full minute. I finally said. Guys, that's not normal. That's not wind. That's not an animal. For the first time. None of us laughed it off. That evening, tension hung between us like fog. No jokes. No stories. No music. Just quiet fear. Around 9 p.m., Murtaza suddenly said. I'm hearing things. Adil and I froze. What things? I asked. Trees, he whispered. I swear I heard something moving between them. We hadn't told each other, but secretly. I had heard it too. A slow shifting. Almost rhythmic. Like breathing. Midnight. We all lay in the tent, pretending to be asleep, but none of us were. Around 2 a.m., Murtaza whispered. Guys, one of the trees is closer. We snapped our eyes open. He wasn't lying. A tree that had been 10 feet away was now 3 feet from the tent. No sound. No movement. Just, closer. I don't remember falling asleep after that. I only remember waking up to screams. At sunrise, Murtaza was gone. His sleeping bag was empty. Unzipped neatly. As if he got up on his own. But he wouldn't have left us. Not at night. Not in the dark. We found footprints going into the forest. Fresh ones. They led to a path. A path that didn't exist the previous day. A narrow trail between the trees. Perfectly straight. Inviting and wrong at the same time. Adil wanted to run back to the car. I refused to leave Murtaza behind. We followed the trail. The tree trunk. About 300 meters in, we saw it. A hollow tree trunk. Dark and deep. The opening wide enough for a person to crawl inside. And from inside that trunk, we heard Murtaza. Hassan, help. I'm stuck. I'm here, help. But something was off. The tone didn't change. The pitch stayed exactly the same. It was like a recording. Repeating. Looping. Adil, shaking, said. That's not him. That's not him. I shined my flashlight into the trunk. There was nothing inside. Just emptiness. And that looping voice. That sounded less and less human every second. We ran. We didn't stop. Not even when the forest started shifting again. Back at the campsite, we tried to pack, but the trees. The trees were closing in. Not fast. Not suddenly. Just slowly. Every time we blinked. Inch by inch. One tree was now so close to the tent. Its bark scraped the fabric when the wind blew. Adil panicked and bolted. I tried to stop him, but he ran into the woods. I chased after him, but the forest was changing again. Paths bending. Landmarks vanishing. The forest breathing around me. Adil. I screamed. No answer. Just the sound of trees moving. Branches creaking. The forest adjusting itself around me like a puzzle shifting pieces. At one point, a tree moved so close I felt its bark press against my jacket. That's when I knew. This forest wasn't reacting to us. It was hunting us. By some miracle, I reached the edge of the forest near sunrise. The moment I stepped out, everything went silent. No shifting. No creaking. No movement. Just a normal forest behind me. I screamed for Adil. I waited 4 hours. Nothing. I called rescue teams. They searched the entire area. They found no footprints. No broken branches. No signs of where my friends went. It was like the forest had absorbed them. And then rearranged itself again to erase every trace. I've gone back twice with search teams. Every time, the forest map is different. New paths. New clearings. Different tree formations. No one believes my story. They think trauma made me hallucinate. They think my friends got lost. But sometimes, at night, I hear it again. That same looping voice. Hassan, help. Not from a memory. Not from my head. From the woods near my home. Like the forest is still moving. Still shifting. Still looking for me. If you want part 2. If you want me to reveal what I heard last week outside my house. Comment, forest returns, below. Some forests grow slowly. But this one follows you home.